Have you ever looked at the world around you and wondered, are we living in the final days? In a time when everything seems to be changing at an alarming rate, economies collapsing, climate catastrophes becoming more frequent, and social unrest gripping nations, it's easy to feel like the world as we know it is coming to an end. But is it really? Are we truly living through the apocalypse? Or are we simply witnessing the natural progression of a society on the brink of transformation? To understand the signs of the last days, we must first define what we mean by the apocalypse. For centuries, the term apocalypse has been associated with fiery endings, vast destructions, and the final judgment of humankind. Yet, in modern times, this concept has evolved. We no longer think of the apocalypse as something that will happen in a single catastrophic event. Instead, it is often viewed as a slow, gradual process, a slow collapse of the systems that hold our world together. Think about it. Over the last few decades, we've seen the rise and fall of entire empires, the collapse of global financial systems, and the shifting of political powers in ways that we never thought possible. Is this just the natural ebb and flow of history? Or is there something more ominous at play? As we stand at the precipice of a new era, many people are beginning to notice that things just aren't the same anymore. The world seems to be at a tipping point, and all the familiar patterns that once made life predictable have become increasingly erratic. From the outbreak of global pandemics to the rapid development of artificial intelligence, it's as though we are speeding toward a moment of reckoning, a moment that may forever change the course of humanity. But what if the apocalypse isn't a single, dramatic event? What if it's a series of smaller, interconnected shifts, each one more subtle than the last? What if, instead of waiting for the world to end in a blaze of fire and destruction, we are already living in a time where the signs of the end are hidden in plain sight? To explore this question further, let's dive into the key signs that indicate we may indeed be on the brink of the end times, not as a fiery catastrophe, but as a profound shift in the very fabric of our civilization. As we continue our journey through the end times, it's essential to understand that we aren't talking about the sudden collapse of the world. Instead, what we are witnessing is the unraveling of the threads that have held civilization together for centuries. Whether it's in the realm of economics, politics, technology, or the environment, these subtle yet profound changes are all signs of a greater transformation, a transformation that may ultimately lead to the demise of the systems we've come to depend on. The economic collapse, the illusion of stability. One of the most telling signs of this age is the ongoing economic instability that seems to be plaguing the global markets. For decades, the world has been operating under a financial system built on debt and speculation. The rise of global capitalism, once seen as a triumph of human ingenuity, now shows cracks that are too big to ignore. In the early 21st century, many of us were lulled into a sense of false security by the unrelenting growth of financial markets. We saw stock prices soar, housing markets inflate, and technological giants emerge from the ashes of the dot-com bubble to dominate the global economy. The idea of prosperity seemed to be a permanent fixture, and those who invested in this system became the richest the world had ever seen. But behind this shiny facade, a darker reality was brewing. In 2008, the world witnessed one of the most significant financial crises in modern history. The global banking system, which had been built on risky financial products and speculative investments, collapsed under the weight of its own instability. Millions of people lost their jobs, homes, and savings, and the economic system that had promised perpetual growth was exposed for what it truly was, a house of cards. Even though the global economy rebounded in the years that followed, the warning signs of a much deeper crisis remained. Central banks across the world began printing money at an unprecedented rate, increasing the debt burden on nations, corporations, and individuals. The wealth gap between the rich and poor grew wider, and the middle class, once the backbone of the global economy, began to shrink. The rise of automation, AI, and globalization has further exacerbated this economic divide. While companies in developed nations have reaped the benefits of low-cost labor in emerging markets, the working-class citizens of these developed countries have seen their jobs vanish. The automation of many industries, from manufacturing to retail, has left millions unemployed, without hope for a better future. In this new world order, only the wealthy and technologically advanced will have the resources to thrive, while the rest will be left to navigate the wreckage of an outdated system. In many ways, this economic collapse is a sign that we are entering a new phase in human history. The old ways of doing business, of relying on debt and perpetual growth, are no longer sustainable. But what does this mean for the future? Will we adapt and create a new, more equitable system, or will we succumb to the forces of division and inequality that seem to be taking root around the world? The environmental crisis. The Earth strikes back, while the economy has been faltering. Another ominous sign of the apocalypse is unfolding around us: the environmental crisis. Climate change, deforestation, pollution, and the destruction of natural habitats have reached unprecedented levels. The planet, which has supported human life for millennia, is now beginning to show signs of strain, signs that can no longer be ignored. The most visible and immediate impact of this crisis is the increase in extreme weather events. From wildfires in California to flooding in Bangladesh, the Earth seems to be fighting back against the damage we've caused. In many parts of the world, the changing climate has resulted in crop failures, water shortages, and increased migration as people flee areas that have become uninhabitable. The Amazon rainforest, often referred to as the lungs of the planet, has been decimated by years of deforestation. The loss of this vital ecosystem has had far-reaching consequences, not only for the species that inhabit it but for the entire planet. Without the Amazon, carbon levels in the atmosphere rise, contributing to global warming and further exacerbating the environmental crisis. Perhaps most frightening of all is the increasing frequency of natural disasters. Hurricanes, tornadoes, and earthquakes seem to be occurring with alarming regularity. The Pacific Ring of Fire, which stretches from the west coast of the Americas to the Far East, is experiencing more seismic activity than ever before. Scientists warn that a megaquake in California or Japan could trigger a catastrophic chain reaction that disrupts global economies and societies. As we continue to pump greenhouse gases into the atmosphere and exploit the Earth's resources at an unsustainable rate, we are edging closer to a point of no return. The question is, are we already too late to reverse the damage? And if not, how much time do we really have before the Earth's ability to support life as we know it begins to collapse? The technological revolution, the rise of the machines. Amidst these crises, another unsettling development is taking place: the rapid advancement of technology. From artificial intelligence to robotics, technology is transforming every aspect of our lives. While these innovations offer unprecedented opportunities for progress, they also pose significant risks to our way of life. The rise of AI, in particular, is one of the most profound shifts in human history. Machines are becoming increasingly capable of performing tasks that were once thought to require human intelligence. From diagnosing diseases to writing news articles and composing music. While these advancements have the potential to revolutionize industries and improve our lives, they also threaten to render large swaths of the human workforce obsolete. Automation has already begun to displace millions of workers, particularly in sectors like manufacturing and transportation. Self-driving cars, for example, are expected to put millions of truck drivers, taxi drivers, and delivery personnel out of work. Similarly, advancements in artificial intelligence threaten to replace jobs in fields such as finance, healthcare, and even law. But the implications of AI go beyond just job displacement. As machines become more autonomous and capable of making decisions, questions of ethics and control come to the forefront. Who will be responsible if an AI makes a mistake or causes harm? Will AI become so advanced that it surpasses human intelligence, leading to a future where humans are no longer in control? While these technologies promise to usher in a new era of prosperity, they also present challenges that humanity may not be prepared for. The rapid pace of technological development, combined with the concentration of power in the hands of a few tech giants, could lead to a dystopian future where a small elite controls the majority of resources and power, while the rest of humanity is left to fend for itself in a world of automation and artificial intelligence. The collapse of social order, divisions deepen. In addition to the economic and environmental crises, the social fabric of society is also showing signs of strain. Inequality, division, and political polarization have reached levels not seen in decades. As the gap between the rich and poor grows wider, social tensions are rising. Protests and riots are becoming more common, as citizens demand justice, fairness, and accountability from their governments and corporations. One of the key drivers of this social upheaval is the increasing concentration of wealth and power in the hands of a few. As large corporations and billionaires amass unprecedented levels of wealth, the majority of people are left behind, struggling to make ends meet. The middle class, once the backbone of many societies, is shrinking, while the wealthiest individuals grow richer and more powerful. This concentration of wealth has led to growing resentment and frustration among the general population. Many people feel that the political and economic systems are rigged against them, and that their voices are no longer heard. This has given rise to populist movements around the world, with leaders promising to challenge the elites and restore power to the people. However, these movements are often marked by divisiveness and extreme rhetoric. Instead of bringing people together, they serve to deepen the divisions in society, pitting one group against another. The rise of nationalism and tribalism is a direct result of this polarization. As people increasingly identify with their own cultural or ideological groups rather than with society as a whole. The breakdown of social order is perhaps one of the most worrying signs that we are entering a new phase in human history. As the world becomes more interconnected, these divisions are only likely to grow. The question remains, can we overcome these divisions? Or will they lead to the collapse of the social order as we know it? As we continue to witness the unraveling of the systems that have defined our modern civilization, it becomes increasingly clear that political instability and cultural shifts are integral to the changes unfolding before our eyes. These disruptions are not just a passing phase but are symptomatic of deeper structural issues that have been developing over decades, if not centuries. These changes echo the fall of great empires and civilizations throughout history and may signal the end of an era. Political upheaval, the decline of democratic institutions. One of the most striking signs of this new era is the weakening of democratic institutions around the world. Democracy, once considered the gold standard of governance, seems to be in retreat in many countries. Populist movements, authoritarian leaders, and increasing political polarization are threatening to dismantle the very foundations of democracy itself. Across the globe, we have seen an alarming rise in populist leaders who appeal to the frustrations and fears of the common people. These leaders often promise to drain the swamp of corruption, restore national pride, and reject the so-called elites who have controlled the political system for too long. While these messages resonate with many, they often come at the expense of democratic principles such as freedom of the press, the rule of law, and the protection of minority rights. In some cases, these leaders have already begun to erode the power of democratic institutions. We have witnessed widespread attacks on the media, with independent journalists being silenced and replaced by state-controlled propaganda. Judicial systems that were once designed to serve as a check on executive power are being undermined, and legislative bodies are increasingly sidelined by executive orders and decrees. The rise of populist and authoritarian leaders is not just a challenge to the institutions of democracy. It is also a sign that the social contract that once held democratic societies together is beginning to break down. But political instability is not confined to one region. In countries that were once considered paragons of democracy, such as the United States, we have seen deepening divisions along ideological, racial, and class lines. The rise of social media and digital platforms has amplified these divisions, allowing misinformation and extremist views to spread more rapidly than ever before. In the face of these divisions, democratic institutions are struggling to maintain their legitimacy, and the idea of a unified society seems more elusive than ever. What does this political upheaval mean for the future? If the decline of democracy continues, what will replace it? Will we see a return to authoritarianism? Or will the collapse of the old political structures give rise to something entirely new? Cultural shifts. The battle for identity. In addition to political upheaval, the world is experiencing a profound cultural shift that is reshaping societies around the globe. From the rise of identity politics to the changing nature of work and community, these cultural changes are both a reflection of and a response to the broader social and economic forces at play. Perhaps one of the most significant cultural shifts of the past few decades has been the growing importance of identity in shaping people's lives. In many societies, individuals are increasingly defined by their race, gender, sexual orientation, and other markers of identity. While this movement has brought about greater recognition and rights for marginalized groups, it has also led to deepening divisions within society. The emphasis on identity has, in some cases, replaced traditional sources of identity such as nationality, religion, or class, leading to a fragmented society where people are defined by their differences rather than their commonalities. This fragmentation has been exacerbated by the rise of social media, where people can connect with like-minded individuals from around the world, but also become trapped in echo chambers, where their views are constantly reinforced and polarized. As a result, many individuals now live in isolated ideological bubbles, where they only interact with people who share their beliefs and values. This has created a situation where dialogue and understanding between different groups have become increasingly difficult, and conflict and polarization are on the rise. At the same time, the rapid pace of technological change is having a profound impact on the way people live, work, and relate to each other. The rise of automation and artificial intelligence has already begun to displace large numbers of workers, particularly in industries that once provided stable, middle-class jobs. This has led to growing frustration among those who feel left behind by the new economy, as well as a sense of disconnection from traditional forms of community and work. In response to these shifts, many people are turning to new forms of community and self-expression. Online communities, social movements, and even alternative spiritual practices have become increasingly popular as individuals seek to find meaning and belonging in an increasingly fragmented world. While these new forms of community can provide a sense of connection, they also contribute to the fragmentation of society, as people increasingly identify with niche groups and ideologies rather than with a broader social or national identity. Cultural shifts, like political upheaval, are not new to human history. Civilizations throughout time have experienced moments of profound cultural transformation, and these changes have often been accompanied by societal collapse or reformation. The Renaissance, for example, marked the beginning of a new era in Western history, where new ideas about art, science, and politics began to challenge the old order. Similarly, the social upheavals of the 20th century, including the civil rights movement and the feminist movement, reshaped societies in profound ways. Today, we are witnessing another period of cultural transformation, one that may ultimately redefine what it means to be human in a world increasingly shaped by technology, identity, and global interconnectedness. The decline of globalism, the return to nationalism. One of the most significant political and cultural shifts of the past decade has been the decline of globalism and the resurgence of nationalism. For much of the 20th century, the world was moving toward greater integration, with international organizations like the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, and the European Union working to foster cooperation and peace between nations. However, in recent years, we have seen a backlash against these global institutions, with many countries turning inward and rejecting the idea of global governance. This shift is most clearly evident in the rise of nationalist movements around the world. From Brexit to the election of Donald Trump, from the rise of populist leaders in Hungary and Poland to the growing influence of nationalist parties in France and Italy. The rejection of globalism has become a defining feature of contemporary politics. Nationalism, once seen as a relic of the past, has been reinvigorated by fears of economic decline, immigration, and the erosion of national sovereignty. In many ways, this return to nationalism is a response to the failures of the global order. For decades, globalism promised prosperity and peace through international cooperation, but the reality has often been different. The benefits of globalization have been unevenly distributed, with wealthy nations reaping the rewards while poorer countries have been left behind. At the same time, globalization has contributed to the displacement of workers and the erosion of local cultures, leading many people to feel that their identity and way of life are under threat. As nationalism rises, so too does the potential for conflict. In a world where countries are increasingly focused on their own interests, the likelihood of international cooperation diminishes. Trade wars, military tensions, and diplomatic standoffs are becoming more common, as countries pursue their own agendas at the expense of global stability. The decline of globalism and the rise of nationalism are not just political trends. They are cultural shifts that reflect deeper anxieties about the future. In many ways, this return to nationalism is a response to the uncertainty and instability that characterizes the contemporary world. People are looking for stability, identity, and security in a world that seems to be falling apart. And nationalism offers a sense of control and belonging in the face of overwhelming global change. As we now stand at the precipice of what many would consider the end times, we must recognize that the signs are not always loud and dramatic. They often manifest in subtle shifts in the very fabric of society, shifts that, when pieced together, reveal an undeniable truth. The systems that have sustained us are failing. And what follows may be something entirely different. The question remains, how will we respond to these changes? Will we embrace the transformation and adapt to the new world that is emerging? Or will we resist, holding on to outdated notions of how the world should function? The role of technology, the double-edged sword. The rapid advancement of technology continues to reshape nearly every aspect of human life, bringing both opportunities and challenges. As we look to the future, it becomes increasingly clear that technology will play a central role in the emergence of the New World Order. However, this technological revolution is not without its dangers. In the past few decades, we have witnessed the rise of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and automation, all of which have the potential to revolutionize industries and improve lives. From healthcare to transportation to manufacturing, technology promises to make our lives easier, more efficient, and more interconnected. Yet, the same technologies that enable this progress also pose serious risks. One of the most pressing concerns is the displacement of jobs due to automation. Entire industries are being transformed as robots and AI systems take over tasks that were once performed by human workers. Manufacturing jobs, once the backbone of the working class in many countries, are now largely automated. Similarly, self-driving vehicles threaten to replace millions of jobs in the transportation industry. The service sector, too, is beginning to see the rise of automation, with AI-powered customer service systems and robots replacing human employees in a variety of roles. The implications of this shift are far-reaching. As millions of workers are displaced, the global economy faces the possibility of massive unemployment, particularly in industries that are unable to adapt to the new technological landscape. What happens to those who are left behind? How will they find new ways to support themselves and their families in a world where human labor is no longer needed for many tasks? While technology has the potential to solve many of humanity's most pressing problems, it also poses a threat to the very foundations of our economy and society. The rise of automation, AI, and robotics raises profound ethical questions about the role of human workers in a world increasingly dominated by machines. In a world where machines can do everything from driving cars to diagnosing diseases, what is the place of the individual? The answer may lie in the way we adapt to these changes. If we can harness the power of technology to complement human creativity and ingenuity, rather than replace it, we may be able to navigate this transition successfully. This means investing in education, training, and lifelong learning to ensure that workers can acquire the skills needed to thrive in the new economy. It also means embracing the potential of technology to improve human well-being, while being mindful of the ethical implications of its use. The environment, a call to action. While technology has the potential to revolutionize our world, it is also playing a role in the environmental crisis that threatens our planet. The relentless pursuit of industrial growth, coupled with our increasing consumption of natural resources, has led to an ecological crisis that is fast becoming one of the most pressing challenges of our time. Climate change is perhaps the most visible and urgent aspect of this crisis. Rising temperatures, extreme weather events, and melting ice caps are already having a devastating impact on ecosystems and communities around the world. In some regions, prolonged droughts and heat waves are threatening food and water security, while in others, rising sea levels are displacing entire populations. Yet, despite the mounting evidence of environmental degradation, the world continues to struggle with the question of how to address the crisis. Efforts to mitigate climate change, such as the Paris Agreement, have been met with resistance from powerful political and economic interests that continue to prioritize short-term profits over long-term sustainability. However, the environmental crisis also presents an opportunity for change. The shift toward renewable energy, the rise of sustainable agriculture, and the growing movement for environmental justice all signal that a new way of living is possible. The challenge is not merely technological, it is political, economic, and cultural. Can we reimagine the systems that have led to environmental destruction and build a new global order that prioritizes the well-being of the planet and its inhabitants? The answer to this question will determine the future of humanity. If we continue on our current path of environmental degradation, we risk creating a world that is uninhabitable for future generations. But if we take action now, if we embrace sustainability and conservation, we have the opportunity to forge a new world, one where the well-being of the planet is at the forefront of our collective consciousness. Personal transformation. The role of the individual in a changing world. While much of the focus on the end times is on global trends and systemic changes, it is also important to consider the role of the individual in this process of transformation. The world may be changing, but we, as individuals, still have the power to shape our own destinies and contribute to the collective transformation that is unfolding. One of the key lessons of the end times is the importance of personal adaptability. The systems that have supported us for so long, be they economic, political, or social, are crumbling, and the future is uncertain. In such a world, the ability to adapt, learn new skills, and embrace change is crucial to survival and success. The individuals and businesses that thrive in this new world will be those that are willing to innovate, embrace new technologies, and take risks in the face of uncertainty. But personal transformation is not just about adapting to external changes, it is also about inner growth. In times of crisis, we are often forced to confront our own values, beliefs, and priorities. The challenges of the end times can serve as a mirror, reflecting back to us the things that truly matter and pushing us to redefine our purpose in life. For some, this may mean a return to simpler, more sustainable ways of living. For others, it may involve a re-evaluation of their career or personal goals. Ultimately, the process of personal transformation is about finding meaning in the face of chaos and creating a life that is aligned with one's deepest values and aspirations. The future, embracing the unknown. As we look to the future, it is clear that we are standing at a crossroads. The world as we know it is changing, and the systems that have shaped our lives for centuries are no longer functioning as they once did. Yet, amid the chaos and uncertainty, there is an opportunity for rebirth and renewal. The question is not whether the end times are upon us, but rather what we will do with the time we have left. Will we embrace the challenges of the future and work together to create a new world? One that is more sustainable, equitable, and connected? Or will we resist change, clinging to outdated systems that no longer serve us, and in doing so, risk condemning ourselves to a future of greater conflict and instability? The future is not predetermined. It is shaped by the choices we make today. We have the power to forge a new path, one that leads to a world that is not defined by the collapse of the old order, but by the rise of something new, a world built on the principles of cooperation, sustainability, and personal transformation. As we stand on the edge of the unknown, we must remember that the end of one chapter is simply the beginning of another. The story of humanity is far from over, and the next chapter will be written by those who dare to embrace change, who see opportunity in the face of adversity, and who understand that the end times are not the end at all, but rather the beginning of a new and better world. As we reach the end of this journey through the end times, it's important to take a moment and reflect on what we've learned. The world is indeed undergoing a transformation, one that is challenging the very foundations of society, politics, economics, and culture. But rather than viewing these changes as a threat, we must see them as an opportunity for reinvention, for reimagining how we live, work, and interact with each other. The signs of the end times are not merely external indicators of societal decay, but rather reflections of the deep, internal transformations that are taking place. The shifting political landscapes, the technological advancements, and the cultural upheavals all point to one undeniable truth: the world we once knew is no longer sustainable. Yet, this does not mean the end of civilization itself. It simply marks the conclusion of one chapter and the beginning of another. The end of the old order. Throughout history, humanity has faced moments of crisis, periods when the old ways of thinking and living no longer served the needs of the people. From the collapse of ancient empires to the fall of colonial powers, societies have been forced to adapt, rebuild, and redefine what it means to thrive. These moments of upheaval have always been followed by periods of innovation and rebirth, where new ideas, new values, and new systems of governance have emerged. We are now standing on the precipice of such a transformation. The old order, which has defined the modern world for centuries, is crumbling. From the rise of authoritarianism and nationalism to the environmental degradation caused by unchecked industrial growth, it is clear that the systems of the past no longer work. The old paradigms of governance, economics, and culture are failing, and we must learn from the lessons of history in order to navigate this moment of profound change. A call to action: building the future we want. In times of uncertainty, it is easy to succumb to fear, to resist change, and to cling to the familiar. But we must remember that the future is not something that happens to us. It is something we actively shape. As individuals, as communities, and as global citizens, we have the power to decide what the future will look like. The first step in embracing the new dawn is to acknowledge that the changes we face are not merely external, but deeply personal. If we are to successfully navigate this period of transformation, we must each confront our own beliefs, values, and actions. The end times offer us an opportunity to shed old habits, outdated thinking, and limiting beliefs. It is a time to embrace adaptability, creativity, and resilience in the face of adversity. One of the key lessons of this period is the importance of self-awareness and personal growth. As the world changes around us, we too must evolve. We must be willing to let go of the past and open ourselves to new possibilities. Whether in our personal lives or in the way we conduct business, we must embrace the idea that change is not something to fear, but something to be welcomed. For business leaders, this means recognizing that the old models of success are no longer enough. The world is moving faster than ever before, and the ability to adapt quickly to new circumstances is crucial. Business leaders who embrace innovation, prioritize sustainability, and focus on creating value for their customers, employees, and communities will be the ones who succeed in this new world. It is not enough to simply survive. We must learn to thrive in the face of uncertainty and change. Unity and cooperation, the path forward. As we look to the future, it is clear that the challenges we face are too great for any one person, organization, or nation to solve alone. The issues of political instability, environmental degradation, and social inequality require a collective effort, one that transcends borders, ideologies, and self-interest. It is only through unity and cooperation that we can hope to build a better future. At its core, this is what the end times are teaching us, that the world is interconnected, and that our actions have far-reaching consequences. Whether we are talking about the environment, the economy, or the political landscape, the challenges we face are global in nature. Therefore, our solutions must also be global. However, unity does not mean uniformity. It does not mean that everyone must agree on every issue or that we should erase differences in culture, ideology, or identity. Rather, unity is about finding common ground, working together toward shared goals, and respecting the diversity of perspectives that make our world rich and vibrant. It is about recognizing that we are all in this together, and that our collective success depends on our ability to collaborate and support each other. The power of hope, reimagining the future. As we stand at the crossroads of the end times, we must choose to see this moment as one of opportunity, not despair. The future is not predetermined. It is a canvas waiting to be painted by the actions we take today. We can choose to move forward with hope and optimism, or we can allow fear and uncertainty to paralyze us. The choice is ours. Hope is not a passive emotion. It is an active force that drives us to take action, to innovate, and to work toward a better future. It is the belief that, despite the challenges we face, we have the capacity to overcome them and create something greater than what came before. Hope is what fuels resilience, and resilience is what will carry us through this period of transformation. We must not allow ourselves to be consumed by fear or the overwhelming sense that the world is falling apart. Instead, we must embrace the possibility of rebirth and renewal. Just as civilizations have collapsed in the past, only to be replaced by new and more vibrant cultures, so too can our world emerge from this period of upheaval stronger, wiser, and more united. A new beginning. In the end, the end times are not the end of everything, they are simply a new beginning. A beginning where we are no longer constrained by the old systems, the outdated ideas, and the structures that have held us back. A beginning where we have the freedom to redefine what it means to live in harmony with each other and with the planet. The challenge is not to survive the end times, but to thrive in the face of them, to use this moment of crisis as a catalyst for personal growth, social change, and collective progress. The future is not something we passively inherit, it is something we create. With every decision we make, every action we take, and every value we uphold. As we stand on the threshold of this new world, let us embrace the unknown with courage and hope. Let us reject the fear of the end times, and instead look forward to the endless possibilities of the new times. The journey is just beginning, and it is up to us to shape the world that lies ahead. Together, we can build a future that reflects our highest ideals, a future that is defined not by the collapse of the old world, but by the rise of a new one, a world where unity, cooperation, and hope lead the way.